Hello there and welcome back to this modern web front-end development by example course where today we're going to be beginning section 4 in which we're actually going to be taking a look at adding a backend to our to-do list application that we created in the previous section. So we did sort of lie in the previous section when I said that we were going to be creating an application with a backend and a front end. Well, I didn't really lie, it was just like half lying because we weren't going to be doing it in that section. But in this section we're actually going to be adding a backend to our to-do list application that we created, to our to-do list application front end that we created in the previous section. So anyway, without further ado, let's get right into this. All right. So today we're going to be starting up our first lesson in this fourth section where we're going to be creating a to-do list application, the back end of our to-do list application. Today we're just going to be going over what exactly Node is, what exactly NPM is, and how all that works in actually creating our very first Node application. And installing Node as well. So anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into this. All right, so Node.js here, as we can see in our slide, is a JavaScript runtime environment. So JavaScript as a language was originally designed for the browser, and it exclusively ran in the browser. But then, as developers started using JavaScript more and more, it actually moved into other things as well. Today we can write mobile applications with JavaScript, and now we can even write, desktop servers with JavaScript as well using Node.js. So here in this slide, we're going to take a look at what Node.js is and what it's not. So Node.js is a JavaScript runtime environment, which essentially just means that it allows us to run our JavaScript on an actual desktop without using a browser. So it's pretty. So you can think of it as a JavaScript runner essentially. It also has a built-in server. So don't get it confused with a server. It's not a server. It has a built-in server built into it, but it's not exclusively a server. We can write non-server apps as well. So like, just scripts as well. We can totally write scripts in Node.js. Not in Node.js, using Node.js. In JavaScript, using Node.js. And it has a lot of other built-in dependencies as well. So yeah, that's just something to know as well. So Node, it actually takes JavaScript and sort of extends it. And it removes some things as well that we don't really need since it's not necessarily running in the browser. But it is not a programming language, as we can see here, and it's also not a development framework. So it's just a runner, it's not a framework. We're going to be using a framework, but a framework is actually something a little bit different. We're going to take a look at that in a second. So that's essentially what Node.js is. So in order to actually use Node, one of the most important things for us to have is actually NPM. We don't necessarily have to have it, but I mean, it's practically impossible to develop an application without NPM. Practically impossible. And what NPM is a package manager. So an NPM, so not an NPM, NPM stands for Node Package Manager, which sort of makes sense. So what a package manager is essentially, what it does is it allows us to, instead of going to a certain URL and then downloading a certain program, we can just go to our terminal and just type something like, in our case, npm install. And then something like, our application or our server or our framework, something like that. And that is essentially what it allows us to do. Well, I mean, it doesn't actually install server, framework, or app. It actually installs a package, which makes sense. And but they can be server, apps, or frameworks. So yeah. So that's what NPM is. And the last thing we need to know for our project is, or at least for the scripting side, not the database, is Express, what Express is. So Express is a Node.js server development framework, which essentially means that we could go ahead and just develop our server using plain old Node.js code, but our framework reduces some of the code that we have to write every single time. So this is called Boilerplate Code. And essentially what Boilerplate Code is, let's say that we have 3 different projects, and in those 3 projects, we have the same exact code written again and again and again. So what's the point in doing that when we could just, have one framework handle all that for us under the hood, and so we don't have to write that code again and again and again in those 3 projects. And in our case, it happened in thousands of projects, and so in result, Express was written just to remove that boilerplate code, and so we can do the same exact stuff using less code. So that essentially is what Express, does. And don't think that is the only Node.js server or generally server development framework out there. Pretty much every single language has its own, that can run on the desktop, has its own separate framework, and usually not just one, usually quite a few. Okay, so now that we know what Node is, now that NPM, Node Package Manager, and Express, let's go and actually install Node to actually create our application. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is actually Brew. So we need a package manager on our system. So you may be asking yourself, well, we have Node Package Manager, why can't we just use that? Well, we don't actually have it installed yet. In order to install Node Package Manager, we need to actually have a package manager. So we can install it in a separate way, and this will only work for Mac and maybe Linux, but most definitely for Mac. If you are on Windows, go ahead and look for a tutorial online on how to install Node on Windows. But for Mac, this is just generally the easiest way. So to do this, just go ahead and go to Terminal here. All right, there we go. And here we can just do brew -- version. Now, you most likely will not get any message here. You'll get an invalid command here. That's because you don't actually have Brew installed. So to install Brew, all we have to do is go to the actual Brew homepage. Right, there we are. So as simple as brew.sh. And then here we have a command here that we can just go ahead and copy and then paste it into terminal. All right, and here we are. Let's go ahead and paste it in. All right, there we go. So right now, it's going to go ahead and now prompt us to install, and I'm going to press return, enter my password, and this is the computer password. And now it's going to install and download everything. So in my case, I believe it's just going to update it since I already have it installed. But yeah, on your system, it should actually go ahead and install it. And after we've installed it, we can now just install Node. All right, and finally, once you have it installed, all you're going to do, let me make it a little bit bigger here so I can actually see. All you're going to do is just going to go ahead and do brew install and Node. Now, if we didn't have a package manager installed, what we'd have to do is go to the Node website, download something, then wait for it to download, then unpackage it. Since we have a package manager installed, you can see how simple this is. Just brew, install Node, enter, done. It'll install everything for you. It'll take care of everything for you. All the versions, everything will just be taken care of completely for you. You don't have to do a single thing. Just take brew, install Node. Simple as that. And there we go. So after about 2 minutes, it went ahead and installed. So now I can go ahead and do npm -- version. And there we go. So we get version 5.6.0. So npm, remember, it's the Node Package Manager, and it's automatically installed when we install Node. We can also now do node -- version. And as you can see, we also get the Node version. So now we have Node installed and npm installed. It installs it all for us. Now, let's just go ahead and create our very first Node.js application. So to do this, let's go ahead and go to our folder where we store all of our projects. All right, here we are. And in here, we can just go ahead and go to cd space to-do application. This is the to-do list application folder that we created. Let's go ahead and we can just drag that in, and this will automatically take us to our directory here, to this folder. And here, what we can actually just do is touch app.js. So that's going to go ahead and create a new file called app.javascript. And there we go. We have app.js here. Let's go and open this up with Atom. All right, there we go. So we went ahead and opened up our text editor. And now we can just do something as simple as console.log hello, world in single quotation marks. There we go. All right, now let's save that. And now we can go ahead and close this. All right. And now in your terminal, make sure that you have your terminal opened. What we can go ahead and do, and make sure you're in the correct directory. So you have to be in that same folder here. We can actually do ls to list off all of our current, all of the files in our current directory. As you can see here, we have app.javascript. And here, all we have to do is just do node app.js. And there we go. As you can see, it printed hello world